Okay, so we're gonna go into an effective hair color consultation. We're gonna talk about formulating hair color, what questions you need to ask your client. We're gonna talk about mixing color. We're gonna talk about patch test, preliminary strand test, and then we're gonna talk about some of the procedures that you guys have learned. We're just gonna review those in this section of the Chapter 21 hair coloring. So let's talk about how to conduct an effective hair color consultation. The consultation is, of course, the most critical part of the hair color service. Again, you guys know this, it is the most crucial part of any service that we do. We like to be on the same page as our clients. During the consultation, you and your client are going to communicate what he or she is looking for, and you are going to repeat that back to make sure that you guys are on the same page. In order to do this, you need to book about 15 minutes of additional time. So if you're doing a 3-hour color service, then you need to book 3 hours and 15 minutes. Okay? During this time, during the 15 minutes with a new client, make sure that there are absolutely no interruptions. Your client will need to fill out a client intake form. This is going to have all of the information, name, address, medications, anything about their history, hair history as well, all of those questions so you can familiarize yourself more with that client, their medical history, and their hair history, how they live, their lifestyle. You're going to conduct this in proper lighting so that you can look at their hair color, analyze their hair color, and take it from there on, from where they are to where they need to be. You're going to look at the client directly. You do not want to look at them through the mirror. You want it to be face-to-face. We're doing a personal consultation. You're going to recommend 2 different options. You're going to have to be honest. And I know that does not sound like a lot, but because you're probably like, I'm always honest. But you have to be honest about pricing. You need to be honest about maintenance. You need to be honest if they want to come in and be an ice blonde and they are very dark, it may take, 4 or 5 sessions before I can get you there. That's going to be a lot of money. It's going to be a lot of rebooking, a lot of at-home maintenance. Be very honest about what it takes to get to that point. Okay, you need to gain approval from the client. So before you begin the service, you want to make sure you guys are on the same page and that they agree to the plan. You're going to start the hair color service. Then you're going to educate them regarding home care products and rebooking. So that's what I was talking about. In order to maintain that hair color service, they're going to have products to use at home, how they need to do how often they need to use them, what are the cost of those products, and then rebooking. Do they come back in 6 weeks? Are they coming back in 2 weeks? Do they need to come back next week for a hair treatment in between, their touch-ups? Be very honest with them about all of that and make sure that they know up front all of those things. And then finish completing the client's hair color service and record card. And we do this on the clinic floor. When a client leaves us and we are complete with their service, then we document what we used, what brand, what product, how long, the processing time, what the results were, and we file that with a date to make sure that we know for the next time when the client comes in if they were happy with it, if it was a bit too dark for them, a bit too light for them, how we can adjust the formula. Okay, so this is actually in your book, but it is a hair color record service card. We also have these at the school. You guys are very familiar with that. But again, you'll see on here, you have name, address, phone number, description of your hair, your natural hair color, the condition of the scalp, what products you use, porosity, density, correction treatments, the process, all of that information, and this is for you and your client to fill this out. It's going to take both of you. Okay, so let's talk about our release statement. This is used by salons and schools when providing a chemical service to inform guests that there is risk of having any chemical service because that the client's hair is in questionable condition and may not receive the results as intended. So if anything is in question, like you're saying your hair is too dry, you really need to come get some treatments on your hair before I do this service, and they're absolutely no, I want to go forward with the service. This is what you need, a release statement. It's used to explain the risks to clients. It's used to protect the salon or a school that you're at. It is not a legal and not a binding contract, but it does show that the client was willingly had signed up for the service. Okay, so let's talk about formulating hair color. And I know you guys are very anxious and nervous to get into this part of hair color, but we're going to talk about formulating. So the 5 basic questions that you need to ask your client: what is the natural level? Okay, again, I have taught you earlier in a previous presentation how to find that natural level. Does it include gray hair? We know how to get a swatch book and we know how to look for that. What is the level and tone of the previously colored hair? Most clients are going to have previously colored hair. What is the level? What is the tone? Some clients are going to have bands if it was not done correctly or if it was an at-home service. You would need to get the level and tone of each one of these. We treat each one of these as if they are their own problem. What is the client's desired level and tone? So where are they at and where do they want to go? Are the contributing pigments or undertones to be revealed? Okay, what are those? We talked about that in the decolorization chart. Okay, if they're a level 5, what's under that level 5? They're a level 3, what's under that level 3? It's red, so we're going to have to counteract that red somehow if it's not wanted. If it is wanted, good for us. We can play into that. And the 5th question is, what colors should be mixed to get the desired result? So this is where your formulation comes in. Basically, you're doing a full investigation on their hair, what they want to go to, and from getting from point A to point B is how you create your formula. Okay, so let's talk about depositing and lifting ability. The combination of the shade selected and the volume of hydrogen peroxide determines the deposit and the lifting ability of the hair color. So the color and the developer both play a role in that. Always remember to formulate with both lift and deposit in mind in order to achieve proper balance for the desired results. So if you're lifting, you need to think about your developer also needs to lift. If you're lifting and depositing, then you need to think about your developer. If you're just depositing, then you want to think about some of those lower developers. Okay, mixing permanent hair colors. Okay, so let's talk about some different things that you may use, and then we're going to talk about mix ratio. So an applicator bottle. Okay, I personally love an applicator bottle when I am doing a retouch service. You don't see these a lot anymore, but it is easy peasy if you ask me. I would definitely try it out if I were you. I love an applicator bottle. Be sure that the applicator bottle is large enough to hold both the color and the developer. Most of them are about 6 to 8 ounces. They have enough airspace to shake the bottle so that you can completely mix it. How do I mix? You're going to mix by lightly squeezing the bottle and covering the top with your finger before shaking. This will prevent the color from escaping the bottle after mixing. Just like when you have that perm solution or your neutralizer, you mix it, put your finger on top of that hole and shake it. So what is mix ratio? So on your color bottles, you're going to see 1 semicolon 1 or 1 semicolon 2. Those are the 2 most popular. So for a 1-to-1 ratio, that means for every 1 ounce of color, you're going to have 1 ounce of developer. For a 1:2 ratio, that means 1 ounce of color for 2 ounces of developer. Usually the 1:2 ratio, you see those more in a demi-permanent line, or you see those in special high lift blondes. Okay, let's move on to talk about the brush and bowl. This is the most common. I know you guys are very familiar with using your brush and bowl and you like that. Make sure you use a non-metallic bowl. We don't want any metal. Measure and add the developer into the bowl. Add the color or colors you have selected in the appropriate proportions. Use a plastic whisk or an applicator brush to stir the mixture until it is blended. And I love a good whisk. My applicator brush, of course I have used that time and time again, but a whisk is really, really good. It helps you not get your applicator brush so messy, or either I'll use another applicator brush to actually apply the color. You can also, your book does not talk about it or discuss it, but you can also use a scale to measure. A lot of salons do this, and I want you guys to be familiar with the scale so that you can do either way. But remember that mix ratio, 1 ounce to 1 ounce or 1 ounce to 2 ounces, I want you guys to manually know how to mix as well. So next up is a patch test. We've talked about this time and time again, so this should just be a big review for you guys. A patch test is also known as a predisposition test. It is a test for identifying allergies in a client. So how's it done? The color used for a patch test needs to be the same color that will be used during the hair color service. Okay, so if you're using a level 5 red, brown, that should be the same thing you use for your patch test. Results: a negative skin test will show no sign of inflammation and indicates that the color may be safely applied. A positive result will be red. It will show either a rash or a welt. Maybe they broke out, had some itching. A client with these symptoms is definitely allergic. Under no circumstances should they receive the hair color service. Again, a patch test 24 to 48 hours prior to the hair color application. Okay, so let's talk about applying hair color. To ensure successful results when performing a hair color service, the colorist must follow a prescribed procedure and never leave the client unattended while the hair color is processing. So let's talk about a preliminary strand test. This is something that you guys also are very familiar with. We know that a strand test determines how the hair will react to a color formula, how long the formula should be left on the hair. The strand test is going to be performed after the client is prepared for the coloring service. That means they need to be draped, they need to have that base cream put on them, all of those things, and then, just as if you're doing an entire hair color service, that strand test needs to be done. Strand test, again, the back of the hair, underneath the hair. This is to see, if you're not sure about your formula, this will show you, is my formula going to work? Do I need to add processing time? Do I need to add more of one color than the other? Do I need to change my developer? That's what a strand test is for. So now we're going to get into some procedures and how to apply these. Again, you guys learned about temporary hair colors, semi-permanent. You learned about demi-permanent and how to apply all in beginners, all 3 of those. You also learned how to do the single process virgin in beginners as well. So this should all be a review for you guys. With me, you guys have learned how to do the retouch and several of the lightning and multi-dimensional services. So for temporary color, there are many methods of applying. So that depends on the product that's used. Some of these temporary colors, again, are mousses, some are gels, some are shampoos, some are sprays, some are foams. It just depends on what the product is. You have to follow the manufacturer's directions as always. Apply the color products according to. Okay, so semi-permanent hair colors. These are only deposit color. They will not lighten the hair. When choosing a semi-permanent color, remember that the color is applied on top of existing hair color. Always creates a deeper color and alters the tone. Okay, color over color is going to make it darker. The porosity of the hair. The porosity of the hair determines how well the products are going to saturate the hair. Repeat applications. Being a deposit only, traditional semi-permanent colors can build up on the hair ends with repeated applications. So this is good if you're doing somebody on pre-lightened hair and say they want to do that fuchsia that I had in the previous slideshow. And the first one, it's not fuchsia, it's more of like a light pink. Can I do it again? Yes, you can. The semi-permanent colors can build up on top of each other, and that is totally fine. A strand test is going to help determine the formula, the processing time before the service. So demi-permanent hair color. The application procedure for demi-permanent hair color is similar to that of the traditional semi-permanent color, since neither process alters the hair's natural melanin or produces lift. Very similar to semi-permanent. Follow the manufacturer's directions always. This needs to be followed for application and the processing time. Gray hair. Because there is absolutely no lift, the resulting depth of color when covering gray hair may appear too harsh unless you allow for some brightness and warmth in your formulation. Again, remember, demi-permanent does not cover gray hair, it will blend gray hair. Selecting a shade that is one level lighter than your natural color is what I absolutely recommend. For more natural result, go one level lighter than the natural color. This is to allow for that depth, and it will also give it somewhat of a highlighted look against that natural tone. Okay, we also want to talk about the porosity of the hair. Okay, hair that has been previously received a color service will have a greater degree of porosity, which means it must also be taken into consideration when formulating and applying a demi-permanent hair color. Okay. So let's talk about that single process permanent color. The virgin application, the retouch application, single process, color retouch. We want to talk about all of those. So a single process hair color, that it lightens and deposits in one single application. Okay, so you can do this. Two examples of that are a virgin and a retouch. A virgin application is the first time the hair has been colored. Not the first time the hair has been colored in 6 months, 2 years. It is the first time that the hair has been colored. Pre-lightened and pre-softening are not required with this application because it is natural hair, so you don't need either one of them. So let's talk about a retouch application. As the hair grows out, you will have to apply hair color to the new growth. Often this includes a glaze or a non-ammonia color that adds shine and tone to the hair to refresh the faded ends. So you're going to use the formula that you used that first time to touch up the new growth. You do not want to overlap at all, or you will create bands in the hair. Then you're going to take a second formula to refresh those ends. For both applications, follow the same preparation steps as you did the first time, including the consultation and a patch test. When you're doing the new growth and the faded ends, you're going to apply color to the new growth. Do not overlap. Overlapping can cause breakage. It can cause a line of demarcation, which is also that banding. That is a visible line separating the colored hair from the new growth. So that takes away from what you're really trying to do. You want it to look natural. You want it to look seamless and all one color. Process according to your analysis or your strand test results. Do not bring permanent hair color through the ends. Never, never, never. I've told you this numerous times. Color on top of color makes it darker. You're going to bring that permanent hair color. That's going to damage the hair. It's just not necessary. So we learned in the previous lecture that you can do something what is called a soap cap, or I called it emulsifying the hair. That's when you add that shampoo and water and pull it through the ends. Or you can formulate a demi-permanent hair color, which is what I really suggest. You will do this to the ends to match the new growth. Typically, you go up 2 levels, and it will do so. Work the demi-permanent through the ends. Then you're going to shampoo and you're going to condition. Okay. And this is everything that I just went over, applying color to new growth and the faded ends. So now let's talk about double process hair color to wrap up this part of the lecture. Hair lightening is also known as bleaching or decolorizing. Okay, that involves the diffusion of natural hair color and pigment or artificial hair color. So when we lighten, we're either lightening natural hair color, your natural hair color, that is where we are getting that underlying pigment, or we're taking out that artificial hair color and getting what's underneath that artificial pigment. Double process high lift coloring. Okay, this is known as a 2-step blonding. The hair is pre-lightened first and then it is toned. Okay, we do this a lot. It's very common actually. What is pre-lightening? Pre-lightening is the first step of a double process hair color. It is used to lift or lighten natural pigment before the application of a toner. Okay, so again, remember natural pigment before the application of a toner. All right, guys, that is it for this slideshow. Thank you.